The massive council chamber fell silent as the final vote appeared on the giant holographic display. The result was clear: 189 species in favor, 12 against. Earth would be quarantined. Admiral James Wilson stood at the observation deck of his flagship, the ESS Defender, staring out into the vastness of space. Strange energy patterns began forming at the edge of the solar system, flickering in a way that shouldn't have been possible. His hands gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white, his mind racing through the consequences of this moment. After 5 long years of serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, Wilson had failed to prevent this betrayal. The galaxy had just cast its judgment on humanity, and it was a judgment of fear. "Sir," his second-in-command spoke softly behind him, "the barrier is forming. We have 30 minutes before we're cut off from Earth." Wilson didn't turn around. He couldn't. The weight of the situation was too much to bear. "How many of our people are trapped outside?" he asked, his voice low but tight with the bitterness of helplessness. "Early estimates suggest 2.3 million colonists across 12 worlds, sir. And our fleet? We have 28 ships that won't make it back in time." The energy barrier flickered again, glowing with unnatural colors, its edges sharp and undefined. To the Council, it was a protective quarantine, a measure to prevent further unrest from humanity's unpredictable behavior. But Wilson knew better. This was a prison wall, designed to keep Earth's people trapped in their own solar system. The very thought of it twisted something deep inside him, a sense of betrayal mixed with a terrible, unspoken certainty. This was just the beginning. Back in the council chamber, Speaker Robert Greene stood facing the assembly of aliens with an air of forced dignity. His gaze swept across the alien representatives seated in their elevated pods, beings of all shapes and sizes, some with tentacles, others with multiple eyes, and a few that were merely clouds of intelligent gas. Despite their vast differences, all seemed united in their conviction: humanity was a threat that needed to be contained. Greene's voice, though steady, carried an underlying fury. "You cannot do this," he declared, his words echoing through the chamber. "Earth has followed every regulation, signed every treaty. We have been peaceful members of the galactic community for 15 years. High Speaker Toll, a tall being with crystalline skin, leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with disdain. "Peaceful?" Toll's voice was cold, laced with the weight of years spent scrutinizing humanity. "Shall we discuss the mining dispute on Proxima B, or perhaps the cultural contamination on New Haven? These were minor incidents, resolved through proper channels." Toll's crystal skin flickered with patterns of disapproval. "But they represent a pattern. Humans are simply too unpredictable, too aggressive. The Council has analyzed your species' history: constant wars, rapid technological advancements, and relentless expansion. You are dangerous." Back aboard the Defender, Wilson stared at the barrier now fully materialized. The communications officer's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, we've received confirmation. Earth is now cut off. The barrier is complete. We've lost all contact." He nodded grimly, already knowing the devastating implications. "Send one final message to Earth Command before the barrier blocks all communication," Wilson said, his voice colder than before. "Tell them, the Council has shown their true colors. Initiating Protocol Omega. God help us all." In the Council chamber, Speaker Greene's anger simmered just below the surface. As Toll and the others congratulated themselves on what they believed was a victory, Greene's eyes narrowed, his mind already working on the next move. "Believe you've contained a threat?" Greene spoke to the gathered representatives, his voice carrying across the room. "Let me remind you of something from our history, something you seem to have overlooked in your analysis." The chamber grew unnervingly quiet as every eye turned toward him. Greene was a human, but his words carried the weight of centuries of struggle. "Humans are at their most dangerous not when you face us in open battle, but when you back us into a corner. When you leave us no choice but to fight our way out." High Speaker Toll waved a crystalline hand dismissively. "Empty threats, Speaker Greene," he said. "The barrier is impenetrable. Your colonies are contained. Earth is isolated. Please accept your situation with grace." Greene smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "We shall see," he said quietly. "We shall see." As he was escorted from the chamber, Greene's words seemed to hang in the air, like a prophecy no one was yet willing to hear. The council members congratulated themselves on containing the human problem, never noticing the small, knowing smile that never wavered on Greene's face. They thought they had caged humanity, but they would soon learn that cage doors could be opened from both sides. 5 years passed. During that time, the Galactic Council's quarantine around Earth remained strong and undisturbed. Regular patrols reported only routine solar traffic within the contained system. On the surface, it appeared as though humanity had accepted its fate, even with surprising calmness. But appearances can be deceiving. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, in a facility that didn't officially exist, Dr. Helen Stone stared at the strange device floating in her lab. The small metal sphere, no larger than a baseball, was doing something impossible. It was passing through solid matter. Test number 2047 is successful, she spoke into her recorder, her voice shaking with a mixture of awe and triumph. The quantum tunneling device can now transport objects up to 50 kilograms through any known material, including the Council's energy barriers. In another chamber nearby, General Thomas Gray watched as workers assembled ships unlike anything ever built before. The ships were sleek, elegant, but also terrifying in their design, built not just for speed but for power. They had no wings, no obvious propulsion systems, only energy coils that hummed with a low, ominous power. Humanity had been building in secret, preparing for the day when they would no longer sit quietly under the weight of the Council's decisions. They were ready to break free. "We've found a way out," General Gray said, his voice heavy with determination. "And they won't see us coming?" The ships were unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. There were no visible engines, no weapon ports, and their hulls were made of a strange material that absorbed all light, making them appear as if they weren't even there. Ghost ships they were called. General Thomas Gray studied the report, his eyes narrowing in satisfaction. "How many of the ghost ships are ready?" he asked his assistant. 50 completed, sir. "Another 100 will be ready by the end of the month," came the reply. Gray nodded, a look of quiet pride crossing his weathered face. The Council's patrols were still seeing exactly what humanity wanted them to see, a defeated Earth, going about its boring, contained business, unaware of the quiet storm brewing within the solar system. Meanwhile, in the orbital shipyards above Mars, humanity built regular trading vessels and small patrol ships, all playing their part in the perfect facade. But beneath the surface, within the asteroid belt, something far more dangerous was taking shape. Hidden in hollowed-out rocks were the ships that would break free from the Council's chains. On distant Council worlds, the scattered human colonies continued to face discrimination and hardship. Yet even this worked to Earth's advantage. Who would suspect these downtrodden humans of plotting something grand? It was the perfect cover. At a luxury resort on the capital world of the Council, two beings that appeared to be wealthy merchants met for drinks. One of them, appearing relaxed, was actually Director Anna Wells, Earth's master spy. The other, Admiral Wilson, now living under a new identity, kept his face neutral as he listened. "The quantum network is in place," Anna said, her voice low and conspiratorial as she sipped her drink. "Our people have installed nodes in every major Council facility. When the time comes, we'll have control of their entire information system." Wilson nodded, keeping his face carefully neutral. "And our colonists, all in position?" Anna's eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. "The Council thinks they're keeping our people contained in those settlements. They don't realize we chose those locations years ago, before the quarantine. Each one is strategically placed near vital infrastructure, ready for when the time comes." Back on Earth, in the old United Nations building in New York, human leadership met in secret. The room appeared ordinary, but quantum dampeners ensured that no signal could escape. The Council had done everything it could to isolate humanity, but humanity was ready. Dr. Helen Stone, standing near a lab table, spoke calmly into her recorder. "Phase 1 is complete," she said, her voice steady. "The quantum tunneling technology is perfected. We can bypass their barrier at will." General Gray, overseeing operations on the ground, added, "Phase 2 is also ready. The Ghost Fleet is nearly at full strength. The Council sensors can't detect them and their weapons can't target them." Meanwhile, the Council continued to congratulate itself on its success. Regular reports showed Earth focusing on internal development, new farms, solar power stations, and modest orbital facilities, everything one would expect from a civilization learning to live within its self-imposed limits. At a diplomatic reception on the Council capital, alien leaders discussed the so-called human problem. "Remember how worried we were?" One alien leader laughed. "We thought they might try something dramatic, but look at them now. Humans talk big, but in the end, they're just another minor species." Another leader nodded. "The quarantine was the right choice. They've been contained. There's no threat." Behind them, a server cleared their empty glasses. The server's name tag read Tom, but no one noticed the man who was quietly memorizing every word they said. No one realized that he, like thousands of other human agents, was placed throughout the Council's space, waiting for the signal to act. On Mars, in the heart of the rugged landscape, General Gray ran final tests on his Ghost fleet. In a facility hidden deep within the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Dr. Stone made the final adjustments to her quantum tunneling device. Across the colonies, scattered humans continued to play their parts perfectly. Earth had been silent for 5 years, but it was a silence that masked the preparations of a predator, one who was now ready to strike. The Council had forgotten an old human saying, "Beware the quiet ones." The Council's primary defense station, Alab, was considered the pinnacle of galactic engineering. It was a massive structure, twice the size of Earth's moon, and it coordinated defense networks for 12 star systems. No ship could move through its protected space without detection, and no weapon could breach its powerful shields. But at exactly 3:15 Standard Galactic Time, the station vanished. "What do you mean gone?" High Speaker Toll's crystalline form pulsed with angry red patterns. "A station of that size cannot simply disappear." General CX, a tall insectoid being who served as the military commander for the Council's defense forces, played the sensor recordings again. The station had been there one moment and the next it was gone. No explosion, no debris, no warning. Just nothing. "Our best analysts are studying the data," CX reported, his antennae twitching nervously. "But they found nothing. No energy signature, no weapon trace. Nothing at all." 3 days later, Defense Station Beta disappeared in the same way. The Council was in a panic. 2 major stations had vanished without a trace and no one could explain why or how. A secret meeting chamber was hastily convened, where the highest leaders of the Council gathered to discuss the terrifying implications. 2 stations in 1 week? A goose, an aggressive species with scales and sharp teeth, thundered. "Who has this kind of technology?" "Not the humans?" Another member chimed in quickly. "The humans are still contained behind the barrier. Our patrols report normal activity in their system." But High Speaker Toll was not so sure. "Then what is happening? If not the humans, who?" On a ghost ship near the remains of Station Alpha, General Gray smiled. The quantum tunneling devices had worked perfectly. The stations hadn't been destroyed. They had been transported piece by piece into an empty star system 50 light-years away. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered, his voice low but filled with satisfaction. Across Council space, seemingly solid objects began to appear inside secure facilities. Small metal spheres, no bigger than a baseball, materialized out of nowhere. These spheres were impossible to scan or move, and when guards tried to touch them, their hands passed right through. On the Council's mighty warships, the weapons wouldn't fire, and space stations found their shields failing. Every Council system, every heavily fortified location, was being infiltrated by something they couldn't see, something they couldn't fight. Humanity was finally showing its true strength. The Council's arrogance would soon be shattered. Exactly 10 seconds before returning to normal, the communication networks across Council space experienced strange delays, followed by the appearance of a singular message that appeared on every screen in sight. A single phrase flickered across the galaxy's largest and most advanced platforms. "Remember Earth." In the Council chamber, chaos erupted. "It has to be the humans?" High Speaker Toll shouted, his crystalline form pulsing with anxiety. "But how?" His voice trembled with disbelief. "The barrier is still active. Our patrols are reporting." Just then an aide burst into the room, breathless, panic in their eyes. "The patrols, they're gone, sir. All of them. Every ship monitoring the SA system has vanished." A heavy silence fell over the room. The gathered members, alien species of every shape, size, and form, exchanged confused glances, trying to process the impossible. How could this be happening? They had everything under control. The barrier was secure. They had cut Earth off, isolated and contained. Yet, the very foundation of their plan was now crumbling. Meanwhile, aboard Admiral Wilson's ship, the ESS Defender, he stood before the communications console, staring at the message he'd waited 5 long years to see. "Remember Earth?" He turned to his crew who were all disguised as various alien species and calmly gave his orders. "Drow, activate the camouflage. Power up the ghost drives. It's time." The crew moved efficiently, their movements a seamless blend of experience and purpose. Across Council space, thousands of human agents, planted carefully throughout the galaxy, received the same signal. The scattered colonies, long subjected to discrimination and hardship, smiled as they checked their hidden quantum communicators. The message was clear. Earth was ready to strike back. As the Council scrambled to put its fleet on high alert, strange things began to happen. Ships that had been dutifully monitoring the barrier disappeared from sensors for exactly 5 seconds, only to reappear as if nothing had happened. Critical defense platforms shut down, rebooted, and failed to react in time. And then, the most perplexing anomaly of all, mysterious metal spheres began to appear in secure facilities. These spheres passed through the strongest materials as though they weren't even there. No sensors could detect them. No alarms went off. In her hidden mountain laboratory, Dr. Helen Stone monitored the network with cold precision. All tunneling devices are functioning perfectly, she reported into her recorder. The Council's defense grid is completely compromised. As her words echoed through the room, a junior council member rushed into the chamber, his face ashen. There's something wrong with the barrier around the Sol system. It's impossible. High Speaker Toll interrupted, his crystalline form flickering erratically with agitation. The barrier is powered by 3 stars. Nothing can. But the words died on his lips as the massive display screen in the chamber suddenly activated. It was Speaker Green's face, appearing as though no time had passed since the last time they saw him. His knowing smile was the same as it had been 5 years ago. "Greetings, council members," Green said calmly, his voice carrying a weight of authority and something far darker. "I believe it's time we discuss the terms of your surrender." Surrender? Toll's crystalline form shattered and reformed in visible agitation. "You are still contained. You have no fleet, no weapons, no power. Your barrier is still active, and your ships are trapped behind it." Green's smile widened as if he were relishing the moment. "Look outside," he said, his voice calm and pleasant. The council members rushed to the windows, their eyes widening in shock. Above their capital city, hovering as if out of thin air, was a fleet of black ships. Ships that absorbed all light. Ships that hadn't been there a moment ago. Ships that weren't supposed to exist. "Now then," Green continued, his voice filled with false sweetness, "shall we talk about removing that barrier?" The first strike was never about destruction. It was about showing the Council something simple but terrifying. They had never truly contained humanity at all. Humanity had spent 5 years playing its part, pretending to be beaten, pretending to accept the isolation imposed on them. But now, the time had come for the Council to learn the truth. As chaos began to unfold in the Council chamber, a security officer burst through the doors, his scales pale with fear. "High Speaker Toll," he gasped. "We've discovered human spies, they're everywhere." "What do you mean, everywhere?" Toll's crystalline form flickered with anxiety, confusion taking over. "Explain yourself." "Your personal assistant of 3 years, sir. She's human," the officer stammered. The room erupted into chaos as Toll's assistant stepped forward calmly, removing a small device from behind her ear. Her alien appearance shimmered and vanished, revealing a human woman underneath. "Director Anna Wells," she announced with a slight bow, "Earth Intelligence. I've been running your communications network for the past 3 years." Before anyone could react, others in the room began removing similar devices. The Trade Minister's chief advisor. 3 security guards. Even a council member. One by one they revealed themselves to be humans in disguise. It became clear that humans had been embedded in every level of the Council's operations for years, silently feeding false reports, misdirecting the Council's focus. Meanwhile, at the Orbital Defense Headquarters, General CX, who had been overseeing the Council's security protocols, discovered the horrifying truth. His entire senior staff had been human agents, carefully disguised, feeding him false patrol reports about Earth for years. When he demanded answers, one of his alien commanders explained with a sickening calm, "Our genetic scans were designed by us, but Earth helped build your security systems 15 years ago. We left ourselves a few backdoors across the galaxy." The story repeated itself throughout Council space. Humans were embedded in every major government, corporation, and military installation, manipulating events from the shadows. They had been there all along waiting. The time had come for the Council to realize the full extent of their mistake. On his ghost ship, hovering above the Council capital, General Gray watched the chaos unfold below. "Begin the next phase," he ordered, his voice calm but filled with anticipation. Suddenly, every screen across Council space displayed the same message. It was short, simple, and terrifying. 1. Your defense networks are compromised. 2. Your communication systems are under our control. 3. Your security protocols were written by us. 4. We can shut down any ship or station at will. 5. You have 1 hour to remove the barrier around Earth. The message was signed simply, Humanity. In a secure bunker, the highest leaders of the council gathered to discuss their options. "We can't give in to their demands," one member insisted. "We have billions of ships. They can't possibly." Before they could finish, every light in the bunker went dark. When they flickered back on, Admiral Wilson was standing in the center of the room. "Would you like a demonstration?" he asked quietly. The room froze. He pulled out a small device, pressed a button, and the main screen flashed to life. The entire home defense fleet, thousands of ships, powered down at once, frozen in space, dead in the water. Every ship, every defense, every weapon rendered useless. "Shall we talk?" Wilson asked, his voice calm as the council's grand plans began to crumble under the weight of humanity's unexpected return. Wilson explained, "Quantum tunneling technology lets us do more than just move through solid matter. We can access any system, anywhere." His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of an immense power. "Would you like to see what else we can do?" Before any of the council members could respond, the air in the chamber grew thick with tension. Humans began appearing around the room, stepping out from solid walls, emerging from the floor, and walking through the ceiling as if they were part of the very structure. They moved with quiet precision, and soon the council members were surrounded. Their expressions shifted from disbelief to alarm. "We've had this technology for years," Wilson continued, his tone almost conversational. "We could have struck the moment you contained us, but we chose to wait. We chose to prepare. To show you just how badly you underestimated humanity." Meanwhile, above the council capitol, Speaker Green addressed the full assembly of the council, his image appearing on every major screen across council space. Behind him, the black ghost ships hung in the sky, silent, formless, and absorbing all light. A stark, inescapable reminder of Earth's power. "You thought the quarantine would contain us," Green began, his voice steady. "Instead, it gave us time. Time to perfect our technology, time to position our people, and time to learn everything there is to know about you." With a subtle gesture, human agents revealed themselves from the crowd. They stood, calmly pulling off the camouflage disguises they'd worn for years. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, the culmination of years of preparation. Their presence was undeniable, and the room fell into stunned silence as Green spoke again. "Every secret you've discussed over the past 5 years, we heard it. Every defense plan you made, we knew about it. Every secure facility you built, we helped design it." The council members sat motionless, unable to comprehend what was unfolding in front of them. How had they not seen this coming? How had their most trusted aides, security officers, and engineers all been humans in disguise? The very foundation of their control had been undercut by the very species they had tried to subjugate. "And now," Green continued, his smile widening, "let's discuss the future. A future where humanity takes its rightful place in galactic leadership. A future where you understand one simple truth." He paused, allowing his words to sink in, to resonate in the hearts of the council members. "You never imprisoned us. We imprisoned you. You just didn't know it until now." The room was silent, the weight of his words sinking into the minds of those who had once held Earth and its colonies in check. Above the capital, more ghost ships appeared, ships that absorbed all light, leaving nothing but darkness in their wake. These black ships, like an invisible fleet, served as a silent testament to humanity's patience and revenge. The infiltration had been completed, and the true negotiations were now underway. At the Council's largest shipyard, Centura Prime, the most secure facility in all of Council space, something extraordinary occurred. The shipyard was considered untouchable, shielded by 3 layers of defense and guarded by 1,000 warships. It produced the most advanced vessels in known space. At precisely midnight, without warning, every single ship in the yard turned itself off. "Try again," the shipyard commander shouted at his engineers, his voice tinged with frustration. "Override the systems." "It's no use, sir," one engineer replied, his tentacles trembling with fear. "Something else is controlling them. The computers are receiving commands from Earth." The revelation spread quickly across Council space. Similar scenes played out at major facilities. Freight ships stopped mid-route, defense platforms powered down, and space stations lost gravity control for exactly 10 seconds before it was restored. These disruptions seemed minor at first but grew increasingly severe as the scale of the operation became apparent. In her hidden mountain laboratory, Dr. Helen Stone monitored the chaos through the quantum network. "Operation Blackout is proceeding as planned," she reported. "Every device we planted over the last 5 years is responding perfectly." Across Council space, screens flickered to life with a new message. It was simple yet chilling. Asterisk network control transfer to HCCSS Earth command. Have a nice day asterisk. The words lingered for a moment before vanishing, replaced by the overwhelming silence of a network completely under human control. In an emergency meeting, Council military commanders gathered to discuss their next steps. What they saw on their tactical displays left them baffled. Star charts showed impossible readings. Navigation systems pointed in the wrong directions. Tactical displays failed to work altogether. How deep does their control go? General CX demanded, his voice rising with panic. A human technician, formerly disguised as one of CX's trusted systems experts, answered with a wry smile. Remember when the Council standardized all galactic navigation protocols 12 years ago? Guess who wrote the code? In the main chamber, Speaker Toll received increasingly desperate reports. The trading routes are in chaos. We've lost contact with the outer colonies. The defense grid is responding to unknown commands. At that moment, Director Anna Wells appeared on the main screen. Several council members jumped in surprise as her calm, pleasant voice echoed throughout the room. Having technical difficulties? She asked, her tone deceptively light. Don't worry. We're just demonstrating our capabilities. From thousands of colony worlds, human settlers who had endured years of restrictions began to receive the signal. They walked away from their posts at power plants, shipping centers, and communication offices. Within minutes, those facilities began experiencing technical failures, systems malfunctioning, communications cut off, and once secure installations now vulnerable. As Admiral Wilson watched from his ghost ship, his face a mask of satisfaction, he gave the order, begin Phase 3. Simultaneously, across Council space, the quantum tunneling devices activated. Critical computer cores, those vital to the operations of the entire galaxy, simply vanished. Transported to secure facilities on Earth. Backup systems came online, only to discover that their programming had been rewritten years ago. In the Council's secure archives, the head archivist made a terrifying discovery. The entire database had been copying itself to Earth for the past decade. The humans had everything. Every secret. Every protocol. Every contingency plan. Green's voice echoed through the chamber again, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the panic spreading among the Council members. What you're experiencing, he said softly, is just a small demonstration. We control your networks. We can shut down your ships. We know all your secrets. And we're just getting started. With a wave of his hand, the lights in the chamber dimmed. When they came back on, there was a quantum tunneling device floating in the center of the room. It passed through chairs and beings alike as if they weren't there at all. An interesting device, isn't it? Green mused. It can transport matter through any substance. Through your strongest shields. Through your thickest walls. We have millions of them. As the Council members watched in horror, more devices appeared, drifting through the room like ghostly spheres. They were everywhere, moving without resistance, a symbol of humanity's complete mastery over their defenses. But the real question, Green continued, his voice steady and menacing, is what else have we been moving through your defenses? All these years as you thought you were in control. What else have we taken? 4 years, humanity's agents had been positioned across Council space, quietly watching, preparing, and infiltrating. Now, as if in answer to an unseen signal, thousands of operatives began vanishing. One by one, the carefully placed agents disappeared from their posts, leaving critical systems unmanned and exposed. These systems, which had once run smoothly despite the ongoing chaos, suddenly began to fail without their hidden maintainers. The vast network that the Council had spent millennia constructing, its intricate machinery of control and power, was unraveling before their eyes. The technology and the strategies that had once been the pinnacle of galactic civilization were now being undone by a series of hidden lines of code written long ago and by devices planted well before they were needed. The Council had never known the full extent of the plan that had been set into motion, one so vast, so patient, that no one had even seen it forming. At the orbital shipyards above Mars, General Gray stood on the bridge of his flagship, preparing to launch the final phase. The Ghost Fleet was ready. Earth's revenge had not required a single shot fired, a single bomb dropped, or a single missile launched. Humanity had already won years ago. The Council had only now come to the horrifying realization. They were not the ones in control and they never had been. Humanity had been operating under the radar, building a network so subtle, so patient, that it had become a part of the very fabric of Council space without anyone ever noticing. Peacefully, quietly, it had been built until now it was revealing its true purpose. The galaxy, which had once seemed so firmly under the control of the Council, was now witnessing an irreversible shift. The Council's emergency bunker, located 2 kilometers underground and protected by technology from 100 different worlds, was meant to be the safest place in the galaxy. It was designed to withstand the very destruction of the planet above, an ultimate sanctuary for the Council's most powerful leaders. Yet, as the leaders gathered inside the bunker, it became clear that their supposed safety was an illusion. Human agents simply walked through the walls of the bunker, one by one, appearing as if they had always belonged there. High Speaker Toll's crystalline form trembled with fear as he whispered, "Impossible. Our best scientists said that this level of quantum manipulation couldn't be achieved for another 1,000 years." Dr. Stone, who had been walking through walls for the past several moments, stepped forward carrying a small device. "Your scientists were wrong," she said, her voice calm but carrying an undeniable authority. "We achieved it in 5 years." She placed the device on the table in front of them, and it floated slightly above the surface, humming quietly. It was a small thing, almost insignificant in appearance, but it held the key to the Council's demise. "This device," Dr. Stone began, her tone almost conversational, "is just one example of how far we've come. Your quarantine gave us something precious: time, isolation, and most importantly, motivation." Screens appeared in the air around them, displaying images of Earth's technological leap. Quantum tunneling, they learned, wasn't just about walking through walls. It was about controlling the very fabric of spacetime itself. Every AI network in Council space, every military communication, every critical system, ran through quantum processors that humanity could access from anywhere, thanks to quantum entanglement. The entire Council civilization, with all its technological might, depended on systems that humanity could control with a mere thought. Director Wells, stepping forward, added, "We can control every system in your network. Every weapon, every ship, every defense platform, it's all within our grasp." Her voice was cool, detached, but there was an undeniable sense of power in her words. Meanwhile, above the capital planet, the Ghost Fleet revealed itself fully for the first time. Thousands of ships, each one capable of appearing or disappearing at will, materialized in the sky. These ships had been there for months, watching, waiting. Their presence now revealed the true scope of humanity's power. Admiral Wilson's voice echoed through every free communication device in Council space, his tone almost casual. "We could have destroyed you 100 times over," he said. "We chose not to. Remember that." In Dr. Stone's lab, the final sequence was activated. Every quantum tunneling device in Council space activated simultaneously, creating a vast, invisible network visible only to human sensors. The network stretched across the galaxy, connecting every planet, every station, and every ship. It looked like a vast web, one that spanned the entire Council's territory. "This," Dr. Stone declared, her voice ringing with finality, "is how complete our control is. We can shut down any system anywhere. We can transport any object, any distance. We can access any database anytime." As a demonstration, she pressed a button, and instantly, across the entirety of Council space, every weapon system went offline. Then every engine. Then every shield. The entire Council military, billions of ships, stations, and defense platforms, went dark. "Don't worry," she said, her voice surprisingly soft given the gravity of the situation. "It's temporary. Consider it a demonstration." In the main Council chamber, Speaker Green stepped forward and revealed the final piece of humanity's plan. "The barrier you placed around Earth," he said calmly, "was never going to hold us." He gestured, and the massive energy field that had surrounded the Sol system became visible to all. "In fact, it helped us perfect our technology. Every attempt you made to strengthen it gave us more data to work with." The Council members, horrified, watched as the barrier flickered. Then it began to transform. The energy that had been used to contain Earth now spread outward, forming new patterns, creating new connections. "We've reprogrammed it," Green continued. "Instead of imprisoning us, it now connects to our quantum network. It amplifies our control over Council space 1,000-fold. The Council members could only watch in stunned disbelief as their greatest weapon, the thing they had used to quarantine humanity and hold it in check, became the very tool of humanity's control. "Why?" High Speaker Toll asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why not just destroy us when you first gained this power?" Admiral Wilson stepped forward, his face serious. "Because that's what you would have done. That's why you tried to imprison us. You think in terms of destruction. We think in terms of reconstruction." A murmur passed through the room, and one of the remaining Council members asked, "What do you want?" Wilson's gaze never wavered. The same thing we've always wanted, he said. A fair place in the galaxy. Equal representation, and a guarantee that no species will ever be quarantined again. The quantum network hummed around them, an ever-present reminder of humanity's overwhelming technological advantage. But it wasn't being used for destruction, it was being used to make a point. Humanity had the power to obliterate the Council, to erase their entire civilization, but they chose not to. You tried to contain us because you feared our potential for violence, Green said softly, his voice now carrying a deep, undeniable truth. But look how we chose to use our power. Not a single life lost, not a single shot fired. Remember that when we begin negotiations. The revelation was complete. Humanity had not only defeated the Council, it had surpassed them in ways no one had ever imagined possible. And the galaxy would never be the same again.